this international webinar dedicated to the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. I'm Edelio Bermejo, Group Head of R&D at Holcim, and I will be introducing this event, which is being streamlined to LinkedIn today. So, I strongly believe that diversity is an essential lever to drive innovation. And more globally at Holcim, we have a strong commitment to increasing diversity and inclusion, including a target of increasing by 40% the senior management positions that are occupied by women by 2025. And Holcim is ranked among the Forbes top female-friendly companies. And there's a lot more we can do, a lot more. That's why I'm happy today that we can leverage this special day to celebrate our female builders of progress in science and hear from a fabulous lineup of influencers in STEM, leading the way, really leading the way.
Chers amis de Holcim, je suis Claudie Haigneré, je suis très heureuse de vous saluer à distance dans ce séminaire dédié à la Journée internationale des femmes et des filles de sciences. Les femmes et les filles ont toute leur place en sciences. Et si nous ne féminisons pas suffisamment les sciences, la technologie, l'ingénierie, le numérique, le monde continuera encore à être trop façonné par et pour les hommes. Je voudrais simplement partager avec vous, non pas des solutions miracles, mais des convictions, des engagements et des leçons apprises de cette carrière très privilégiée qui m'a amené à aller dans l'espace comme astronaute scientifique au cours de missions internationales dans des stations spatiales en orbite. Je suis une enfant de la génération Apollo, fascinée par le premier pas de l'homme sur la Lune en juillet 69, curieuse d'aventures scientifiques, bonne élève, travailleuse et sportive, insatiable. Je suis médecin, je suis chercheur et un jour de 1985, j'ai décidé de saisir cette opportunité qui était offerte par l'intermédiaire d'un appel à candidature du CNES, l'Agence française de l'espace, à la recherche d'astronautes pour ses missions futures. Ce jour-là, la porte du rêve était ouverte dans ma réalité et je l'ai poussée. Pour ma part, je suis très heureuse et fière d'avoir pu être un exemple inspirant en ayant été la première femme française dans l'espace, la seule encore aujourd'hui, pour ces jeunes femmes et ces jeunes filles. Je sais que dans le centre d'innovation de Holcim, vous avez un tiers de femmes dans un monde de la construction avec du ciment, des bétons, ça c'est plutôt masculin. Cette proportion, c'est de bon augure et cela va dans le bon sens. Et d'ailleurs même pour tirer le fil de l'inspiration et de ces nouveaux métiers, pourquoi ne pas imaginer que vos métiers se rapprochent des nôtres? L'aventure spatiale a cette particularité de nous plonger dans le merveilleux de la découverte et l'exigeante et excitante possibilité de transformer l'impossible en réalité.
Mentioning before, and they will introduce themselves, starting with Karen Scrivener. So Karen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Edelio, and thanks for the invitation to participate in this event, which is very exciting. So my name is Karen Scrivener. I'm originally from the UK, and I trained as a material scientist. And I started my work on cement and concrete, I hate to admit, more than 40 years ago at Imperial College when I did my PhD. And then in 1995, I joined the Lafarge Central Research Laboratory, where Edelio is today. I spent 6 very interesting years there, working mainly on calcium aluminate cements. And then in 2001, I came here to Switzerland to the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, where I'm professor and head of the Laboratory of Construction Materials.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm Belgian. I'm currently speaking to you from London. I'm not the GCCA cement director. I graduated as an engineer. This year I will celebrate my 30 years graduation as an engineer. And there we were less than 10% girls during our studies. And I think I've spent my whole career with even less percentages throughout my career. I did a bit of research at the University of Brussels, then moved as a consultant in heavy industries, steel, cement, paper, renew production, electricity production. Then I joined one of my customers, Heidelberg Cement, and worked for them, going regularly to the plants, facing issues 20 years ago as a woman in plants. Then moved to the European Cement Association and now the Global Association. And I'm happy to see that now the last 5 years, maybe we are a little bit more women in all those meetings, but it has been quite a lonely journey, I have to say, but we will elaborate on this.
Maruxa?
Thank you, Adelio. And thanks also for this opportunity to join this webinar. My name is Maruxa Suarez. I joined Holcim almost 20 years ago. And my entire career has been developed mainly in operations, from environment support to process production and also plant manager. So I can say I have enjoyed the plant and the day of the plants. I studied chemistry and biochemistry, so I'm lucky because I find out a way to apply my vocation at work. Currently, I'm working as carbon capture manager, project manager in Spain, in our plant of Carboneras. And well, let's say I'm helping to get to reach our net zero target.
Thank you, Maruxa, and nice location in Carboneras. And last, Magali.
Thank you, Adelio, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today. So I am a mechanical engineer by trade. Actually, I was graduated from INSA Lyon, which is not far from where you are standing, Adelio. I think a bit like you, Claude, when I studied, we were 5% women. That was 33 years ago in the mechanical space. And I think things after that for me went worse as I joined the oil and gas industry, working on an offshore rig, offshore Nigeria at the start of my career. And that was really the reason I chose that industry was, and working for Schlumberger, was very much for the science of it. The science, it's a bit like the airspace Claudie was showing us before. It's quite incredible how far it's pushed, and that's really what passionated me there. Most of my career was a mix of either management type of roles, operation management. So I think I wore for many years more often the coveralls than the suit, but also science, such as developing the tools in the manufacturing center that would go and make those measurements several kilometers deep, this type of thing. I absolutely love science, has always been a driver of my entire career, and I am now in a position where I can fully express it as I am the Chief Sustainability and Innovation Officer for Holcim since the last 2 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies. So now, as I said before, it's time to share the floor with the next generation leaders in science, women in science, my colleagues here from the Holcim Innovation Center, and they will be asking you a few questions.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Elena Dunaeva. I'm Arium R&D project leader. Originally, I'm from Russia. I have a fundamental material science background, and I'm very passionate by industrial R&D and the woman role in business. I have a question to Claude. Claude, please, if you can come back to your early career stage, what advice you would like to give to yourself?
That's really a tough one. If I may, and I think we can share some personal things. I don't know how many of you were in English know that Claude is a name that is also often given to men, and actually even more often given to men than women. So the first advice would not be to myself, but would be to my father, who decided I should wear such a name, because it made my life even more complex. Because when you are invited as a young engineer, and your name is Claude, people don't expect a woman to arrive. And now everyone knows me, but this has harassed me for, I don't know, 20 years probably. So I first have an advice to my father. To myself, it would be, and I'm not sure we could have done it because, as I said, it was very lonely and we didn't have much peers and colleagues to speak about this, but be better prepared. Because we were really learning by doing, facing strange comments sometimes. So be better prepared, be strong, and be perseverant. So I think I was strong, I was energetical, I was perseverant, but I could have been even more. And have the others.
Thank you, Claude. Yes, and Maruxa, could you please add your comment about this?
I think that I'm aligned with Claude, probably just not to be intimidated by anyone, to be yourself and enjoy along the way, because it's going to be hard, but also enjoy it.
Thank you a lot. And I invite Lilia to ask next question.
Hello, everybody. I am very glad to be part of this webinar and have the opportunity to put my questions. So I'm Lilia Karagassian. I am originally from Moldova. I'm an R&D engineer at the Innovation Center, and my background is chemical engineering. So my question would be for Karen. Karen, our society is evolving and we can see more and more women in STEM and leadership roles. From your point of view, what is the biggest challenge for us nowadays?
Well, yes, unfortunately, I think the biggest challenge for us is still what we sometimes call the dual career problem. You know, in STEM, and in many careers, you know, you need to move around, change countries. So I'm very lucky to have a husband who followed me first to France and then to Switzerland. But, you know, not everybody is willing to make these sacrifices. And I think this is still one of the biggest barriers to women really progressing to the highest levels of the careers.
Thank you, Karen. I think I'm one of the women whose husband has accepted to join this path. Magali, could you give us your perspective on this topic?
I definitely agree with what Karen said. The overall guilt feeling around society of what's the role of a woman is quite heavy lift for a lot of women and would stop them. But I think another challenge is to look at statistics the wrong way. Yes, things have improved, no question. But if you look at, I am French, if you look at the French universities, they have been stagnant at about 25% of women coming in. So it's not like it's going up. The number of women engineers remain about a quarter of the total population, and there is absolutely no reason for that. So I think one of the challenges we have today is to think that we have reached a level where we are where we should be when we are not. And we all know in diversity topics, the moment you take your eyes off and you drop the topic, things start going the wrong way again. So I think the challenge is to continue all the efforts that have been done and not think that we are in such a great situation today.
Thank you, Magali. I invite now Luis.
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be part of this event today. I am from New Zealand originally, and I am an R&D engineer here at Holcim Innovation Center, focusing on machine learning. I have been in the STEM field for a little over 15 years, mostly working in software development. My first question today is for Maruxa. Who, during your career, have been your role models?
Well, I could say during my life, not to separate career from life. So I'm lucky because I have my role model very close to me. First, I can say my first role model was my mother. My mother was a working mother with 4 children in a moment where all family work was only for women. So I'm sure that she being able to handle all of these was a big example, not only for me, but also for my brothers. And second, I have my friends. My friends are able to get the balance between work and family. And some of them, they are not lucky because they have little help from their husbands. So they act as good workers, mothers, daughters, and they still find the time to be good friends and to give support to each other. So I can say that they are my big role models nowadays. But besides, I would like to say that all of us must be a role model for our colleagues. In my country, it's quite often quite common to hear women are the worst company for each other in work. So this is not true. We must be a support for each other. We have to, not only in our careers, but in our lives, and maximum in these environments in which we are few compared to our male colleagues.
Wonderful. I'd like to open the same question to Claude. Who are your role models?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had many different, and certainly like Maruxa, for me, it was even my grandmother. Who was a working grandmother, so and she was a lot into these women things and diversity at very early stage. But I would like more to refer to, and maybe it's a bit out of STEM or whatever, but refer to a book I read that really impressed me when I was young, and it's the story of Camille Claudel. Camille Claudel is a French sculptor, and she was not known as a sculptor for many years, and she died in obscurity. But she was much more known as the muse and the lover of Auguste Rodin. And but also, not only that, she was the sister of Paul Claudel, a famous writer. And so for too many years, she has been the lover of one, the sister of the other, and not known for her excellent work. And I think, Magali, that links to what you always say. It's about the talented, silent woman. And this is, it's for me, she's not a role model because she stayed in there. But the story has always been in my mind to say, don't be, the wife of, or the daughter of, or the sister of, just be yourself.
Excellent, thank you. Can I open the same question also to Karen, please?
I can't really say I had very particular role models. I mean, I always was interested in stories of people in science. I must admit, as a young child, I was captivated by the story of Marie Curie and discovering radium, and then people like Dorothy Hodgkin. So I think my role models have changed a lot through my life. But I think now there are really good efforts to feature more women scientists. For those of you who know English, I would recommend a very good podcast called The Life Scientific, which really features equal numbers of men and women. And I think that's a very important progress.
Excellent. And finally, I'd like to pose the same question to Magali.
I think I will answer a bit like the others, which is quite interesting that none of us really have one super role model. And I think it really shows how few women there have been out there until now that can be considered as the ultimate role model. So in my case, I was the first to graduate as an engineer of my entire family, and et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't really have any woman to look up to, but my role models are kind of everybody. I pick things from people. I've known Claude for a while now. I love her stories, how she says, when she explained to me how she started in the industry, and I pick from that. Even though I'd never met Karen before, I'm super admirer of the position she now has, her scientific reputation in our industry, which is very male dominated. I met Maruxa when I joined the company, and I was so impressed to see a female plant manager, because that's for me, I am an operation girl, so I like to see women in those roles. So I pick from everybody, and I never really had just one.
Wow, that's a really good way to look at it. I will hand over now to Sarah for the next question.
Hello, everyone.
I'm very pleased to be able to talk to you and exchange to you about this topic I'm particularly sensitive to. As for the introduction, my name is Sarah Bahafid and I'm originally from Morocco. I have a background in civil engineering and I've worked in academia for a few years as a PhD and a postdoc. And I would like to ask a question to Magali. It was very pleasant to see that the number of female working in your team is quite striking. So what I want to know is how different is the energy and the perspective they are bringing in, and how do you appreciate that?
You know, it's actually quite funny because I imagine you are talking about the sustainability team. The sustainability team is exact parity. But because it's exact parity, we consider that the number of women is striking. Isn't that a weird way of looking at it? Shouldn't we say it's the way it should be because women are 50% of the world talent population? So I think it's quite funny because I get that comment a lot. I get a lot of jokes internally from my peers on how many, on how non-diverse my team is because there are too many women, when in reality, number-wise, it's exact parity, both on the first line, second line. It happened completely by chance. I mean, I have my ways of making sure we have a right representation of women because I make sure that when I do a recruiting, I get offered a good balance in terms of gender and so on. But what it brings, and it's not just the gender diversity, it's also the background diversity. For example, one lady who joined my team a year and a half ago is coming from WWF, which is an NGO, most people know. Doing that stretch from coming from an NGO, which is slightly on the activist side, to coming to an organization like Holcim, is not that straightforward. But she's bringing a completely different perspective, and not just on her topic, also on every topic we discuss. I love talking to her because she opens my mind to think that I would have never thought of. So I think overall, what I appreciate the most is diversity of background, diversity of gender, diversity of everything. And today, I think my team, and without being a bit too show off, I believe we have delivered quite well in the last 2 years. I think we have reached a fantastic balance of everyone motivating each other and everyone challenging each other because of those different backgrounds. And I truly believe that's the way to go, particularly in innovation, where it's well known that innovative teams are way more innovative when they are super diverse, because it's not the same people thinking the same way, educated the same way.
Thank you, Magali. That's wonderfully said. And now I will hand over to Elaine to ask the next question.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today to participate to this discussion. So I'm Hélène Lombois-Burger. I am a French national. I have a background in material science with over 20 years of experience in industrial R&D of construction materials. I joined the group 15 years ago, and I'm now heading the R&D activities on 3D printing. My question would be to Claude. In your eyes, Claude, what are the key actions individuals can take to promote gender equality at work, please?
I would say be very intolerant with anything that you see is going wrong. Any comment you hear, because you hear, a bit as Magali said, think about what you hear, like your team, who, just jumping on your example, Magali, like, oh, everyone says there are many women in that team, and actually it's exactly equal. So just think about everything you hear and correct when you think it should be seen differently or we should say differently. So I call this zero tolerance now for all those bias, but then be very careful, because we also have all unconscious bias, and this is probably what we need to think even further to really be careful with all those unconscious bias. I'm the mother of three children in STEM. I should have said this when I introduced myself, and I have one daughter in STEM and 2 boys, and even myself, I still have some bias, even when I speak to my children. So be very intolerant.
Thank you so much, Claude. And by this, I will hand over to Elena, the next question.
I have a question to Karen. Please, could you list 3 barriers you overcome which help you to be where you are now in terms of career and your personal life?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I mean, I think I've already spoken about one, which is like the dual career problem. I think the other one is nothing particularly to do with being a woman, but, working in cement and concrete. When I started working in cement and concrete, everybody says, well, why are you working on that? We know everything about cement and concrete. And this was, of course, before people really got aware of global warming, and it was quite tough in Imperial College to get a position, because people said, well, this subject of cement and concrete is really not important, so that was probably one of the biggest barriers. And then, I think, like Claude says, we have these unconscious biases as well. Often people are, if you're a strong woman coming with ideas, people tend to react against that sometimes. They don't like you to come with ideas, because they think, well, we should have all the ideas. Who is this person from outside coming with new ideas? So those are just some things, but I think we also should be positive, because if you can overcome these barriers, particularly of balancing family and work, then I think there are now many people who are willing to look positively at encouraging women in their careers.
Yeah, thank you, Marit. I agree. I think that it's important to share all these barriers which you have as senior leaders with young women, and to show that it's possible. Thank you. And Lilia, next question to you.
Thank you. I would like to address my next question to Magali. So Magali, in some countries and societies, the women are still perceived in a domestic caring role. In this context, how can we help and encourage the women to choose a STEM path?
Well, I think to start with, I'm not sure it's that different from one country to the other. I've been, when I could still travel before COVID, everywhere I would travel, I would try to have a dinner with 10 women of the country I was visiting. And we were having those discussions, the discussion Karen just mentioned about, how do you balance your life? How do you remove that guilt factor you have in you because you are considered not as an accomplished mother if you are working while you have kids, et cetera, how societies look at you. And I was very surprised by the fact that no matter which country I was going to, I had the same type of answer. So I don't think it's that cultural related. For example, the countries that I've seen which have the best gender diversity in Holcim have actually been in Latin America. So I'm not sure we would have completely guessed that intuitively. But I think there is just no magic. It's been years and years and years of progression. And like I said earlier, you still see in France, we have been stagnant at 25% of women entering engineering universities. Actually, mine is one of the best ones. They have about 45% women joining now because I've made so much effort. So there is no magic. It's really role models like us speaking up. It's a lot of organizations are doing fantastic job. For example, there is an organization in France, I forgot their name, but they go to lower schools, before baccalaureate or even younger, to explain to little girls why science is fantastic and why, as a little girl, they can do science. Not they should, they can, which means if you want to, there is absolutely nothing that should stop you from doing it. And then the balancing of life, it's really about finding a way to be in peace with ourselves. And again, this is where you have role models. I have two daughters who are now 25, 27, and they are great in their skin. They're super happy girls. So I don't think they have suffered from having me as a mom, maybe for the reasons, but not because I was working. So having those discussions with everybody. And my last piece of advice would be pick the right husband, if I may.
Thank you, Magali.
My second question today for Maruxa. How do you personally overcome adversity?
Adversity, well, first, adversity is only in our heads, and we are what we think of. So I personally prefer to think that everything has a positive thing. This is where you have to focus. This is where you have to start working on, and that we are stronger than we think we are. So nothing is so big that we can't overcome or learn from it. Of course, I'm fortunate. I have had, and I still have, a very good life. But I also have moments that have been uphill. First, I got upset and angry, but it lasts a little time. I try to reflect and to find that the positive things that help me. Nothing lasts forever. So any situation have its positive. Let me give you an example. When I was about to have my second child, I was promoted to plant manager. So none of these were bad news, of course. They were good news. But the combination of both was hard enough to think that I wouldn't be able to overcome and to balance both things. Well, I found a way to do it with a lot of support from my colleagues. And what I learned from this is that hard moments always bring learnings to our lives.
Thank you. That's some very good advice.
Thank you, Louise. So I would like to ask another question to Claude. My question would be, if we're looking beyond the social aspects of gender diversity, how do you think that being a female could create competitive edge in corporate or in academia?
I think from many perspectives. Think first, it's like any diversity brings a competitive edge, because you have diversity of thinking, which means diversity of idea, that we do as women approach problem differently than men. That's in general, our brains function differently. And I think this definitely brings a competitive edge. Now, I have to say also, for my generation of women, we had to fight so hard to achieve the same position that it's horrible to say, but I believe that we had to be more than twice as good sometimes to reach the level we had to reach. Or as Karen said, we had to be very assertive, because we had to fight just to have the right to speak sometimes in meetings, or have been in situation where, when I was young, it's a story I like to tell. I was a young technical director of Sembivo, and I had a meeting at an embassy, and we were early there, and the assistant of the ambassador came to see me and said, when does Mr. Lorea arrive? Do we keep waiting for him? I had to say, it's me. And can you imagine how the meeting starts when the ambassador is told that this young girl is actually the important man you thought he would be speaking to? So I really think that our generation brings a competitive edge, because we have been through unbelievable situations, and your generation, the young generation, you also will keep, because you still have to make a difference. But also because you think differently and you bring other perspective to the things.
Absolutely right. And I hope that we can actually help in changing things. And now, Hélène, the floor is yours for the next question.
Thank you, Sarah. So my question will be for young people starting their career. It's often the first time for everything. So I would have the question to you all ladies. What would be the one piece of advice you would give to someone starting a career in science nowadays? Can you just give your insights, Karen, please?
Well, I think for me, the most important thing is science. It's fun. I mean, I've had such an interesting career. Still I get really excited by the results of the students. When I was at university, everybody used to say, boring natural scientists. But, I think I've had one of the most interesting careers one could imagine. And now, the opportunity to make an impact on things like global warming, you can really do a lot with science. I think that's the most important to me.
That's so true. Thank you so much. Magali, what would be your advice?
Just, let's do it, go for it. I question the status quo. Just don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. And, you know, there is a lady that actually I could have named her as a role model, is Christiana Guterres, who is behind the Paris Agreement signature. She's a lady who managed to get 180 head of state to agree on one document, which is, if you think about it, is completely mind-blowing, considering the typical egos of those type of people and the fact they had all different interests. And she said something, I don't know his exact quotation, but I love it, which is basically, impossible is not a fact, is a state of mind. And I think we should always think that there's absolutely nothing is impossible. If you can get 180 head of state sign the Paris Agreement, you can do absolutely everything.
That's so true. Thank you so much. Maruxa, what would be your one piece of advice, please?
That's both of them, because science is funny. You can do marvelous things thanks to science. You can be creative, helps up to build a better world for all of us. But it's also a hard path with difficulties, with ups and downs, and you need to be perseverant to work really hard. But as one good friend always says, we did it because we didn't know it was impossible. So science and commitment make this possible.
Thank you so much. And final last, Claude, could you share your advice, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that my advice is that if this is what you want to do, so don't do something because someone has told you you should. So just be sure this is what you want to do for yourself and that this is your own aspiration. And if it is, don't let anyone stop you, and certainly not diversity.
Thank you so much. So we won't be stopped by anything. And by this, I will leave the floor to Edelio for the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Hélène. And first of all, before the concluding remarks, I would like to ask a final question to the 5 colleagues from the Holcim Innovation Center, so the 5 next generation ladies. So I will start first by Elena, then Lilia, Louise, Sarah, and Hélène. In one sentence, could you tell us why is Holcim an exciting place to grow your career in science? Sorry, Sarah first.
Thank you, Edelio, for this question. I think for me, simply, since I joined Holcim, I feel like every day and continuously I'm stepping into bigger and better things. What I always wanted to do actually is to be able to work on today's challenges, to contribute to creating a brighter future, a more inclusive one. And in Holcim, I can do so. And I invite Lilia to share her perspective.
Thank you, Sarah. For me, since I joined Holcim, I had the opportunity to work in different countries and different teams, from industrial teams to technical centers. And now I have joined the Innovation Center, which is a great place to work. Here, I can apply the knowledge I acquired till now, and at the same time, develop and learn new things. Thank you. I invite Elena to add her perspective. Firstly, Holcim is a group where diversity and inclusion really matters. And I'm feeling every day fully supported by the team and by the management to accept challenges and to deliver new products and new solutions to the market to make our world more sustainable. Please, Louise. For me, because I work in data, I have the unique opportunity to work with all areas of the business. The thing that excites me most about working at Holcim is there's so many different teams in science and technology, which means that I'm learning new things every day. And finally, Ellen.
Thank you. For me, it's clearly the sense of purpose. I would say that we collaboratively, be it internally with a lot of different countries or externally with startups and a lot of companies, try to turn today's hurdles into opportunities and solutions for tomorrow. And that's really clearly energizing. And now, Edelio, that's the moment for the conclusion this time.
Thank you, Hélène. So thanks to all of you. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for your comments, for your advice. I think it was a great session. Thanks again for the knowledge and the wisdom that you gave to all the women in science. So I would like to take this opportunity just to conclude and to extend an open invitation to everyone, to all women in science that could consider an enriching path in Holcim. So really, I invite you to look at it. And I would like to thank everyone that joined this session. And let's keep building progress all together. Women and men all together. We will make the difference. So thank you for attending this session, and let's stay connected. Thank you very much.